is Sadie, 36 years old, living in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I once thought I was the luckiest woman. A stable job, a small charming house with a porch full of lavender, and by my side was Dylan, the man I had loved for 8 years, about to become my husband in less than a month. It was an early autumn evening, the breeze gently rustling through the trees, carrying the scent of dry leaves and a hint of cold signaling winter's approach. I stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of tomato sauce for Dylan's favorite spaghetti, quietly murmuring the guest list for our wedding. I was even wondering whether I should switch the cake to the type he preferred, when I heard the door open. Dylan walked in later than usual. It was the 4th time that week he had come home late, but this time, something in his eyes sent a chill down my spine. "We need to talk," he said, his voice hoarse as if it took all his strength to get the words out. Turned around, clutching the floral kitchen towel his mother had given us when we got engaged. Back then I had naively believed it would be a reminder of a happy marriage. "What's wrong, honey? I'm listening." I tried to smile, my voice soft in a way that even I could tell was forced. Dylan didn't look me in the eye. He stared somewhere at the wall, avoiding me as if my presence made him uncomfortable. I can't go through with this wedding." I thought I misheard him. The kitchen felt frozen in that moment. Outside the window, the wind chime tinkled softly in the night breeze, echoing mockingly. "What did you say?" I asked, my voice raspy, my hand gripping the towel so tightly my knuckles turned white. "I can't marry you, Sadie. I'm with someone else." His words felt like blades slicing through my chest. I had to hold onto the edge of the counter to keep from collapsing. "Who?" I whispered, though deep down I already knew the answer. Dylan swallowed hard, his eyes distant. "That doesn't matter." "It's Mia, isn't it?" My voice broke. "Mia?" Dylan's gym trainer, the one he'd been mentioning far more than necessary lately. His silence confirmed everything. "She is everything I need, Sadie. She's strong, attractive, confident. She makes me feel alive again." I felt my entire body trembling, as if the storm raging outside had found its way into me. "Do you love her?" Dylan shrugged, the indifference on his face more painful than any cruel word. "I don't know. I just know I can't do this anymore." 1 heartbeat. 2 heartbeats. Then the world seemed to go dark. That night, I didn't know when I collapsed onto the kitchen floor. I only remembered the sauce boiling over, filling the air with a burnt smell, mixing with tears and heartbreak. The next morning, my mother came, worried because I hadn't answered the phone. She found me lying motionless on the floor, my face pale, eyes staring blankly into nothing. She knelt down, cradled me in her arms, her voice trembling. "Sadie, my dear, how did it come to this?" On the porch, the early sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting an unforgiving light on a dream that had shattered. My mother helped me sit up on the kitchen floor, her face etched with fear. I had no strength left to cry, just stared into space with empty eyes. The morning birds outside blended with the ticking of the clock, as if reminding me a new day had begun, though my life seemed to have ended the night before. That morning, my mother made me a cup of hot tea and quietly sat beside me, saying nothing. I knew she wanted to comfort me, but what words could ever mend what had just been broken? 3 days later, I began facing reality, canceling the wedding. I made call after call to more than 100 guests, my voice flat, drained of tears. "The wedding has been cancelled. I hope you understand." I memorized that line so well that after 10 calls it felt meaningless, like a hollow recording on repeat. Each time I pressed the call button it felt like my heart tightened. I could hear the awkward silence on the other end, the rushed, embarrassed responses of family and friends. "Oh, Sadie, are you okay?" "Oh, no, that's terrible. If you need anything, just let me know." But I could also hear the unspoken thoughts. Poor thing, she must have done something wrong for this to happen. The wedding gifts were returned one by one. I packed each towel, dish set, the coffee machine Dylan had once been so excited to choose. Was there any gift that didn't sting? Each one reminded me of a wedding that would never be. On the 5th day, I forced myself to go out. The moment I stepped into the nearby cafe, the spot where Dylan and I had shared so many Sunday mornings, I felt the curious eyes of the barista. Sadie, has Dylan been busy lately? Haven't seen you two in weeks. The innocent question felt like a cold gust hitting me. Hell doesn't come with me anymore, I replied, my voice hoarse. I left the cafe right after, abandoning the steaming latte on the table. The gym wasn't any better. I walked in hoping to get back to my routine, but the moment I saw Mia, laughing and chatting at the front desk, I turned and walked out. The familiar streets of this city suddenly felt like a maze full of traps. Every cafe corner, every street, every shop reminded me of Dylan, of the words he said that night. She has everything you don't. Night after night, I lay awake on the wide cold bed. When sleep came, it only brought nightmares. Dylan's face, the wedding ring I once cherished now removed, lying silently in a drawer. I lost count of how many times I lay awake, watching the clock tick minute by minute, hour by hour, my mind spinning with questions that had no answers. Why? Why did he betray me after all these years? I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. My face was gaunt, my eyes sunken, my skin pale. My weight plummeted without effort. My clothes hung loosely on what was now just the empty shell of someone who had once been happy. I avoided every call from friends, even the encouraging messages I knew they sent with good intentions. I was afraid to hear their questions because I didn't even know what the answers were. One afternoon, I tried to gather enough courage to shop for groceries at the nearby supermarket. As I bent down to pick out a bunch of greens, I heard a familiar voice from behind me. Sadie? Are you okay? Why do you look so thin? I turned around and met the concerned gaze of Linda, one of Dylan's former coworkers. I forced a smile and replied, I'm fine, just a little tired. Linda said nothing more, but I could see the awkwardness in her eyes. The pity I didn't need. That night, I locked my door tightly, drew the curtains shut. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, quietly looking out through the tiny gap between the curtains. The street lights shone through, blurred by the light mist, just like my life at that moment, dim, weary, and without an escape. I still don't know why I stepped out of the house that day. Maybe I was sick of the smell of takeout food, or tired of the exhausted face staring back at me from the mirror each morning. Or maybe I just needed to feel real sunlight again. Whatever the reason, that morning I put on a baggy sweater, pulled on a baseball cap and headed out, planning to buy a hot coffee at a shop 3 blocks from home. That coffee shop, Morning and Maple, was the place Dylan and I used to visit every Saturday. He liked ordering iced Americanos, while I always chose a cinnamon latte. We once talked about the wedding, baby names, plans for a European honeymoon, right there at the corner table by the window, where the two of them were now sitting. I froze when I saw them. Dylan, wearing the pale blue shirt I had ironed for him before his interview. Mia, radiant as if nothing existed outside their world. She laughed, tilting her head gently onto his shoulder. A gesture I knew so well it hurt. Amid the passing crowd, I felt rooted to the spot, my heart clenched in a grip I couldn't escape. My breath quickened, my vision blurred. I turned and ran, without the coffee I had meant to buy, my heart torn apart all over again. When I got home, I collapsed onto the living room floor. I didn't remember how long I cried, only the feeling that everything inside me was falling to pieces, and I couldn't stop it. That night, my younger sister April showed up unexpectedly. The door hadn't been properly locked, probably because I had been too distraught when I came in. She walked in, holding a paper bag full of food, her eyes filled with both anger and concern. How long did you think you could hide in here? April stood in the living room, surrounded by empty takeout containers and scattered blankets. I said nothing. Her eyes settled on me, with my greasy hair, wrinkled clothes, and a face swollen from crying. Get up. For what? I asked softly, my voice weary. To start over. April didn't wait for an answer. She rolled up her sleeves and threw open the windows, letting in the afternoon sun. The stale smell in the apartment was swept away by the cool early-season breeze. Then she pulled me into the bathroom, placing a clean towel and a set of workout clothes on the bed. When you're ready, put 'em on. We're going to have a hot meal tonight. Not that cold stuff from paper boxes. When I came out nearly half an hour later with damp hair and skin flushed from the hot water, April beamed, her expression glowing with the satisfaction of a hard-won victory. There. That's the woman I always admired. We ate dinner in silence for a while. When the tension finally eased, April slid a small item in front of me, an old hardcover notebook. Remember this? My breath caught. It was my travel journal from college. The first page still bore my messy handwriting. Places Sadie will go in her lifetime. Inside was a small world map I had glued in, dotted with golden stars. Paris, Kyoto, Santorini, Florence. I slowly turned each page, memories flooding back like a broken dam. You once said, if you ever felt lost, you'd find your way using these stars, April said, her voice softening. Then go. Find yourself. Even if it's alone. I looked at my sister, the small, stubborn girl with so much compassion, and for the first time in weeks I didn't feel completely alone. Do you think I can do it? April didn't hesitate. I know you can. That night, after April left, I lay in my room, now clean and fresh with the scent of sunshine. The notebook rested on my chest, my heart a little lighter. I didn't know what I would do, but for the first time since everything fell apart, I started to believe maybe there was still a road ahead waiting for me. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, with the old notebook April had given me by my side. The tiny golden stars on the map were still there, reminding me of a version of Sadie who had once been full of dreams and desire. I touched the star at Florence, Italy. The place I had promised myself I'd visit before turning 30. Now, I was 36. The next morning I opened my laptop. The numbers in my bank account appeared. Refunds from wedding services, from contracts I had canceled after the wedding fell apart. It was enough for me to do what I had never dared to do. Buy a one-way ticket to Italy. My hand trembled slightly as I hovered over the payment button, drawing in a slow breath for courage. A ticket to Florence, departing in 7 days. The whole week after that felt like a dream. I cleaned the apartment, folded my things neatly, and when I looked in the mirror I saw myself, no longer the faded shadow of a bride that never was. On the day of the flight, I carried light luggage, including the notebook and an old camera my father had given me when I was a child. When the plane landed at Amerigo Vespucci International Airport, Florence welcomed me with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of sunshine, flowers, and something else entirely. Freedom. In those first days in Florence, I let myself get lost in the ancient stone alleys, savoring gelato right on the sidewalk, watching the sun set behind the Duomo's dome, the last rays of the day casting the whole city in gold. I began to take photos. Balconies full of flowers, couples sitting by the Arno River, the kind faces of old men over their espressos. I sent a few photos to April with a message. See, I survived. One afternoon, as I sat on the steps of a small square, I pulled out my notebook. Between the faded pages, I found a slip of paper tucked inside. An old postcard from Alex, my childhood best friend, who had lived next door in Portland before his family moved to Europe. On it was his slanted handwriting. If you ever come to Italy, be sure to find me. I'll take you for the best pizza in Florence. An idea suddenly flashed in my mind. I opened my phone and searched for Alex Montgomery online. To my surprise, after just a few clicks, a photographer's website appeared. Alex was now a well-known photographer with exhibitions all over Europe. According to his website, he was living and working right in Florence. I hesitated for a few seconds, then quickly typed, "Hi Alex, not sure if you remember Sadie, your old neighbor from Portland? I'm in Florence. If you have time, I'd really like to see you again." I turned off the screen, telling myself not to expect anything. But just 15 minutes later, my phone chimed with a message. "Sadie? Oh my God, of course I remember. I still have that picture of us fishing together when we were 8. Where are you? Send me your address, I'll come get you." Less than an hour later, I saw a tall man with slightly curly hair and a smile just as warm as I remembered, standing outside the cafe where I had suggested meeting. Alex looked at me and opened his arms wide. "Sadie, I can't believe it." I stepped forward, letting myself be wrapped in the embrace of an old friend who now felt like a lifeline to the girl I used to be. That evening we sat by the river, sharing a bottle of local wine. Alex talked about his travels across Europe. about how his passion for photography had guided him since he was that shy boy I used to know. I listened, sometimes laughing out loud, sometimes feeling my eyes sting. There was something in Alex's stories that made me feel as though I too was on a journey to rediscover myself, even if it was just beginning. Tomorrow I have a shoot in the countryside nearby. Want to come? Florence looks even more beautiful through the camera lens. I nodded, my heart feeling lighter. For the first time after those dark days, I truly felt excited about what tomorrow might bring. The next day, I followed Alex out of the city, across endless olive groves, to a peaceful little village nestled in Tuscany. Alex set up his camera, lenses, and tripod, while I sat on an old stone, watching the morning sun glint off the red-tiled roofs. "Sadie, I have an idea." Alex turned, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I'm working on a new photography project, Women Rising, celebrating women who've overcome hardships and found themselves again. Would you consider modeling?" I was stunned. "Me? Alex, I've never been in front of a camera, at least not like that, and I don't have anything worth celebrating." Alex shook his head, his voice gentle but firm. "You're exactly who I want to capture. A woman brave enough to move through pain, searching for a new life. No posing needed. Just be you." His words left me silent. I looked down at my hands clenched together. Part of me wanted to say no, to hide, but another part, the part slowly waking up in this foreign land, wanted to try. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll try." The first shoot was beside a vineyard. A soft breeze sent my hair flying in all directions, the scent of fresh grass mixing with the earthy smell after rain. Alex didn't say much. He simply reminded me, "Just breathe and think about what brought you here." I closed my eyes. And like a dam breaking, memories came rushing back. The night Dylan said goodbye, his face, his cold eyes, the words that still echoed, "She has everything you don't." I couldn't hold it back, tears streamed down my cheeks. But it felt strange that pain didn't crush me anymore, it lightened me, as if I was letting it go beneath the vast sky. Alex lowered his camera, walked over and handed me a handkerchief. "You know, this is the most beautiful moment. Because it's real." In the days that followed, I went with Alex everywhere, to fields of sunflowers, the quiet alleys of Florence, and the sunlit beaches of Liguria. I slowly forgot my fear of the camera. I began to see myself in the photos Alex showed me, no longer the woman left behind, judged as not enough. One afternoon, as Alex was selecting images to submit to a magazine, a well-dressed middle-aged woman approached us. She was Clara Donati, a local fashion designer who had happened upon our shoot. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but she's truly striking," Clara said, pointing at me. "I'm looking for a face to represent my new collection for women over 35. Natural, confident, no heavy edits. Would you consider it?" I almost laughed, not believing my ears. "Are you sure? I'm not a model." Clara smiled. "That's exactly why you're special. Think about it. I'll reach out to your photographer friend." When Clara left, Alex looked at me, his eyes shining. "Told you. You don't see yourself the way others see you." That night, I lay in bed, restless. The offer kept echoing in my mind. Part of me was scared, but another part, excited. Because someone saw me not through the lens of what I lacked, like Dylan once did, but for who I really was. I opened the window, the night breeze carrying the scent of jasmine from the porch. I closed my eyes and smiled softly. Maybe it was time to take another step, to see what else life had waiting for me. I never expected that test shoot with Clara would become the start of a series of events that would astonish me when I looked back. Her fall collection was introduced at a small show in Florence, and I, an amateur model with no makeup, wrinkles at the corners of my eyes, and a still shy smile, unexpectedly became the focus. What people spoke of wasn't perfect beauty but authenticity. They said I represented what they saw in themselves, a woman who had been hurt but still moved forward with strength. The invitations kept coming. A French cosmetics brand reached out, inviting me to join a campaign celebrating the natural beauty of women over 35. An Italian magazine offered to interview me for a special issue about inspiring women. Some days I looked at my schedule and wondered, is this really my life? And Alex, he was always by my side, quiet like the night sky over Florence, open and patient. We worked together on photo shoots for the Women Rising project, traveling through coastal towns and fields bursting with flowers. In the evenings, when work was done, we sat on the balcony of the apartment he rented in Florence. The soft yellow streetlights glowed on our glasses of wine, and with the city's nighttime music in the background, I listened as Alex talked about the places he'd been, about how his passion for photography had saved him from the loneliness of his youth. At first I thought it was just friendship, but then one night when I looked into his eyes, I saw my reflection. Not the fragile Sadie, not the woman Dylan left behind, but a woman who had risen, who was living true to herself. And my heart trembled gently. We didn't rush. That feeling grew from understanding, from the times Alex quietly reached for my hand when I was nervous before a shoot, from the warmth in his eyes when I laughed at something small. Then one late evening, as the city was wrapped in the distant chime of church bells, Alex spoke softly. Sadie, you know, I haven't just photographed your rebirth. I've seen it. And I've fallen in love with it. I didn't answer right away. I simply held his hand tighter, unafraid for the first time to let my heart open. But as I was finding peace, the past found a way to knock on my door again. One morning, while replying to work emails, I saw a message from an unknown number. I opened it. Sadie, I know I have no right, but I couldn't not write to you. I saw your picture on a magazine cover. You look beautiful, and I regret everything. I miss you. Could we talk? It was Dylan. My heart skipped a beat, but instead of the pain that once crushed me, this time there was only stillness. I stared at the screen for a long while, then set the phone down. I didn't reply. That night I told Alex as we sat on the porch, watching Florence light up. He listened quietly, then simply asked, "Are you okay?" "You really am." Above us, the sky sparkled with stars. I tilted my face upward, feeling more at peace than ever. I once thought I needed an apology to heal the past, but now I didn't. Because I had written the next chapter of my story myself, no longer anyone's shadow. 1 year after I arrived in Florence, I stood in the main hall of a gallery in Paris. On the walls were large prints from the Women Rising project that Alex had poured his heart into. My portrait hung in the center. Me in a simple dress, hair loose, eyes gazing into the distance, with the dawn breaking over a wildflower field in Tuscany behind me. I stared at the photo for a long time, no longer recognizing the woman who once cried on the cold kitchen floor in Portland. Now, before me, was a Sadie who was confident, calm, and stronger than ever. The gallery was packed. Members of the press, artists, photography lovers. Everyone gathered around Alex's work, listening to him share the journey behind each portrait. I saw the pride in his eyes as he introduced me as one of his greatest inspirations for the project. A journalist from an international fashion magazine approached me, holding out the latest issue. On the cover I saw myself, my face in profile, my eyes bright as I stood on a balcony in Florence. "You're the symbol we wanted to honor in this special edition," the young woman said with a smile. "A woman reborn." The event in Paris was more successful than we could have hoped. Women Rising was invited to show in New York, then Berlin. Everywhere the stories and images of the women in the project were shared widely, touching thousands of hearts. As I stood on the rooftop of the gallery in New York, the wind tossed my hair and I looked out at the city lights glowing below. Beside me, Alex held my hand silently, his warmth reminding me that I was no longer alone. Then one evening in the cozy apartment we shared in Paris, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. "Sadie, it's me, Dylan." I froze for a moment. That voice, once my weakness, now felt like a distant echo. "I saw you on TV, in the magazines. You've really changed. I know I don't deserve to say sorry, but I want to. I was wrong. I hope you're happy." I smiled, my voice gentle. "Thank you. I am happy now. No regret, no bitterness." With those words, I closed the door on the past. That night, Alex and I sat by the window, watching the lights of Paris sparkle like stars. "Are you proud of yourself?" Alex asked, gently squeezing my hand. "I am, not just because of the success, because I was strong enough to get here. He leaned in, his warmth filling the space between us as his forehead touched mine. I'm proud to have had the chance to walk this path with you. Paris at night was wonderfully still. I sat there, listening to the steady beat of peace in my chest. I knew the road ahead was long, but I had found myself, the woman I once thought I had lost. That evening, at the opening of the Women Rising exhibition at the Paris Museum of Contemporary Art, Alex and I walked side by side. The entire room glowed under bright lights, with large photo frames hanging on the walls, each one telling a story of rebirth, resilience, and the true beauty of women who had overcome heartbreak. When the host introduced us on stage, applause rose like a wave. Alex gently squeezed my hand, pride shining in his eyes. I looked around the room, seeing people who had once been strangers but were now teammates, companions on this new journey. When the exhibition came to a close, we stood by the balcony on the upper floor of the museum, the Paris breeze brushing through my hair. The city sparkled with lights below, making me feel small, and at the same time, strong. Alex turned to me, his voice warm. Tomorrow we start the next chapter, okay? Japan is waiting for us. We had planned the Women of Resilience project in Tokyo and Kyoto. New stories, new faces, new inspiring journeys. Back at our small apartment in the Marais district, I sat at the desk, opened my laptop, and began typing the first lines of the book I had been dreaming of writing. I once thought my life had ended in that little kitchen in Portland the night Dylan said those cruel words, "You have nothing." But that night opened the door that led me to the best version of myself. I paused, leaned back in my chair and gazed out the window where moonlight cast shadows on the old rooftops. I no longer felt angry at Dylan. In a strange way, I was grateful to him. Without that pain, I would never have found the courage to leave my safe circle and find myself. In the days that followed, I poured my heart into writing. Each page felt like a quiet message for women who had once been broken. Alex stayed by my side, helping with the images, refining the book's layout. In the evenings, when we set our work aside, we sat together on the balcony, watching Paris at night and dreaming of new places. The day before our flight to Tokyo, I received an email from the publisher. They agreed to publish my book under the title Beyond the Darkness, A Woman's Journey. I read the email and looked up at Alex, my heart filled with indescribable joy. "We really did it, didn't we?" I asked, my voice emotional. Without a word, Alex drew me into his embrace, his eyes shining with joy. "You did it, Sadie." The next morning, as the plane lifted off from Charles de Gaulle's runway, I looked out the window. The sky was clear, the early sun lighting up the layers of white clouds. The flight to Japan was just the beginning of many more journeys. I knew that no matter how many cities or new faces awaited me ahead, I was ready to write the next chapter, with a heart full of hope. Today, as I look back on the road I've traveled, I understand that all the pain I went through wasn't meant to break me. It taught me how to stand up and walk on my own. From a girl who once thought she had lost everything, I found a stronger, more complete version of myself in distant lands among sincere people. Now, I live with gratitude, freedom, and a steady belief, no matter what challenges life brings, I have the courage to keep writing my own story. What do you think about Sadie's journey and her courageous choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel to explore more deep and inspiring stories about family life.